warm welcome to all of you joining us today on yet another edition of the Spotlight. Now, as all of you know, Sri Lanka is a pearl of the Indian Ocean. Due to our strategic and geographical positioning as an island nation in the Indian Ocean, it is imperative that our maritime borders are secure for our people and for the betterment of our country. Now, this is where, dear viewers, the Sri Lanka Navy steps in to protect our nation. The Sri Lanka Navy is the Maritime Defence Force of Sri Lanka, responsible for safeguarding the nation's territorial waters and maintaining maritime security. So today we have with us, and I have the honour of having an exclusive discussion with Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera. Thank you, Commander, for joining us today. Amidst your very busy schedule, thank you for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be invited, in fact.
Definitely, Commander. Now, 73 years of glorious service, the Sri Lanka Navy, providing security to our country, to our borders, and even to the people. Let's talk about the role of the Sri Lanka Navy, Commander, and how you all ensure national security to our people and to our country.
Yes, your entry, you mentioned that the Sri Lanka Navy is the one that is responsible for safeguarding its territorial waters. We are far beyond the territorial waters. Territorial waters is actually the first 12 nautical miles from our baseline. Then we have 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone. Beyond that, including the exclusive economic zone is high sea. So in 12 nautical miles of territorial sea, we have the total sovereignty. And as a coastal state, in the exclusive economic zone, we have certain jurisdiction. So answering your question is, we are responsible, the Navy is the first line of defense in this country. So any threat that emanating from the sea to our nation, we need to deal with that. So the national security comes first, in that we have to protect and preserve much of our national interest. That is to say that it is not that threats coming from outside. Of course, Sri Lanka's foreign policy is friendly to all. We don't see such foreign threats, but the possibility exists of non-state actors as well, as it is experienced in some other countries. So, and then we had our protracted conflict over 30 years that the Navy fought against the Sea Tigers, which is the maritime arm of the LTTE terrorist. So anything that comes that, but then again, I mentioned about the exclusive economic zone, the protection, the resource protection. This all comes as the protection of our national interest. And then we are also, now that is primarily the national security, but then we play a diplomatic role as well. The navies around the world, the port calls that they do to other countries are more often goodwill visits. So we engage in number of activities, not just sailing our ships into regional ports, but also engaging with them, building the connectivity and building the capacity for collaborative engagement. And of course, there are a lot of combined exercises that we engage with other navies, let it be Indian Navy, Pakistan, Bangladesh, other foreign navies. There are many occasions that exercises are conducted here in Sri Lanka. In each of these exercises, what is happening is that we build up the capacity and then the competencies of collaborative capabilities. So the challenges that are there at sea is not only one singular force to deal with. Sometimes in certain areas there need the combined and collaborative efforts, so that understanding, the capacity building, and then ability to operate together is very much important. So that's what these training together builds. But if you look at we were very successful, I would say, champions in littoral warfare, defeating maritime terrorism when it comes to. But 2009 onward, we went further. We became Blue Water Navy, so that exclusive economic zone, high seas and beyond. Right now we are a regionally operating navy. Now that competency came from engaging with this, so that the diplomatic role. And then of course there is the constabulary and a benign task as well. So we enforce law. Now within our territorials, as I said, that we exercise our total sovereignty in our territorial sea. That includes the custom, immigration, resources, environmental, and all the laws in that case. And also, in that area, beyond the territorial sea, there is another 12 nautical miles. We call that the contiguous zone.
Okay.
So that is, of course, more than we exercise. A coastal state can exercise more authority than on exclusive economic. It's come in four parts: custom, fiscal, immigration, and the environmental laws. So there the Navy, by the Navy Act and by the acts of some other organization, for example, custom and immigration, we are empowered to exercise those acts. But along with us is the Sri Lanka Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard is also, the Coast Guard Act itself empowers them to enforce laws. So we deal with that. And then the benign is there are a number of others. For example, along with the other sister services and then the police, we engage in support of providing aid to civil power. And then often in this country, it's a common thing every year. We have to face serious flood situation, at least 2 or 3 a year. That is HADR, the humanitarian assistance. We are capable, more on waters. And then supporting in various other work. We are very much passionate in maritime environmental preservation. Probably you have heard that we take a keen interest in replanting corals on the reefs of this country, and then the replanting and looking after mangroves around the coast. There are 7 areas the naval commands in this country. Each command, they are engaging in this. And you heard, the disasters that they faced, the maritime incidents, Express Pearl, Blue Diamond, these disasters. We are the respondents. because no other capacity available. Sometimes because of that, the diplomatic role that we play, we have the connectivity about direct engaging with the hierarchies of the other navies. For example, it's the Indian Navy, if necessary the US, whatever, to request assistance. In each of these occasions it was displayed because the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard came into our assistance in dealing with fire, all these things. And one of the important aspects is where we, the Navy, is a key stakeholder in hydrography and chart making. The Act came this year, promulgated. So the National Hydrography Office is now coming to being, and that Navy is a key stakeholder. So we have the capacity, we have resources, we will have to have more capacity building in that aspect, and number of sea charts that we need to update or do, which will also assure considerable foreign income come to the country. So I think in a nutshell I gave a very brief introduction.
It goes much more, it goes beyond than just the maritime security.
Yes.
Navy, because even during the examinations during school, you were mentioning floods.
Yes.
We saw how the Navy stepped in, taking children to school, taking patients to the hospital. It was beyond amazing. My next question to you, Commander, is how do you view the current threat to the environment in your areas of purview, and what are the evolving challenges in the horizon?
That's, I think, at addendum, continuation of the previous answer.
But maybe you could elaborate, Commander, on some of the challenges that we see.
Yes. So, see, you mentioned our strategic location in the Indian Ocean. The Indo-Pacific, as some call, when it comes to strategic interest, there are many nations that has interest in this country. If you remember, the Indian Ocean is considered a zone of peace, which Mrs. Bandaranaike brought it up, and the UN General Assembly accepted it. That was 1976, 78, I believe. 76 or 74, somewhere around that. So the question is whether the Indian Ocean is a peace zone as such now. So the freedom of navigation and security for merchant marine, the shipping, is very much important, because if the maritime shipping get hampered, the global economy will come down, it will come collapsing down. So to Sri Lanka, ports are very important, because facilitation for shipping through ports is one of our major economic activity. So it was, historically, if you look, it was what, during the kingdoms, Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Kandyan, where the kings earned their income through facilitation, the connectivity was passing Sri Lanka. It's valid to date. So we have to ensure that, there are, in average, 30,000 passes of ships passing very close to the southern part of it, because the thick east-west maritime lane, shipping lane, passes close to us. So we are responsible, because it is in our territorial sea, in our waters, ensure that the security. At the same time, as I was saying, this exposes us to certain other dangers, as the fire that occurred off Colombo, the Express Pearl. So vulnerable to certain damages as well. So those are challenges. But apart from that, I mean, you mentioned about the environmental as well. In this case, such maritime incidents will bring colossal damages to our coastline. The particular accident that I mentioned earlier, you remember, along the western coast, the damage that occurred, it's not just simply affected on the livelihood of fishermen, but total destruction of the seabed. It takes years to rebuild. Then there is also the poaching that is happening, the illegal, we call IUU is illegal, unregulated, uncontrolled, unreported fishing. It's not just the outsiders. Considerable illegal fishing is engaged by our own fishermen. So the Coast Guard and the Navy need to look at, because the Fisheries Department has no arm to enforce. And then in the northern waters we have the poaching, the IUU come from India. So we had to address that. But the most dangerous, damaging to our nation is the trafficking of narcotics into this country. I mean, every month you get to hear news how effective the Navy has been, seizing and arresting these traffickers at sea. It's not an easy task. It's not just patrolling out and sea and capturing, because if you blindly deploy a vessel, practically impossible, but you have to pursue after information and build up into intelligence, and then deploy, go after networks, sophisticated in a sophisticated number of activities that you have to be successful in that. Probably we can come back again onto those questions, the areas that I mentioned. And then there is also illegal maritime departures, the illegal migration, more often exits out of this country, I would say, illegal maritime departures for various reasons. And, there were times that, it has peaked up, but it's been largely controlled now because of our, the robust actions. So these are the challenges that we see. But we have our international obligations as well. Now, to the international, we are responsible about some 700 nautical miles south of Sri Lanka as the Sri Lanka's search and rescue region. So any accidents to vessel, even person being overboard, these things are quite I wouldn't say normal, but it's happening quite often. So it's not that we send somebody or some vessel to rescue, but we have to coordinate the rescue, coordinating through other vessels that are passed by. So huge challenge, and to all that we need to have a good picture of these waters, what is happening. Technically we call it the marine domain awareness. These are the challenges that we have.
Thank you, Commander, for those remarks. You mentioned that was actually my next question for you, so I would like to get us into that topic, the importance of the drug menace and the narcotics. The Sri Lanka Navy is playing a huge role in eradicating this for the betterment of our country. Commander, let's talk more about this. I think this is a matter of concern, but the Sri Lanka Navy is doing its absolute best. We see every day that the Navy is stepping in and controlling the narcotic scene. What are your thoughts, Commander?
The trafficking into the country, I believe, quite excessive. And these originates from most when it comes to heroin and amphetamines, ice as we call it, often come from Makran Coast. Makran Coast is west of the Baluchistan, this coastline between the West Pakistan coastline up to the Iranian border. So the African drugs origin from there. It's been delivered into mostly to Iranian vessels, fishing vessels. I'm not saying all.
Yes.
There is the number of vessels that are engaging in this nefarious activity, and then these deliveries go along the east coast of Africa, delivering to those coastal states, the Madagascar, all the way down to South Africa, and then the Mid-Indian Ocean. It comes down to west of Maldives. Presently, the transactions take place in those waters. When whatever that is coming to Sri Lanka, mostly taking place in the western west of Maldives. Beyond the Maldivian east. So I'm talking about if you look at some 1,500 nautical miles. That is to say about 1,800, 1,900 kilometers from Sri Lanka. Now, this is where we have to operate. That is why I said that we are just not littoral or exclusive or high seas. We are regional, because we are actively engaging in dealing with because not that task. When it comes to fruitful, it's not addressing simply stopping the drugs coming to us. It's an international obligation and to prevent this kind of activities in high seas. So every time when we are successful, you get to hear some 250 kilos, 300 plus. These are the volumes that comes.
And it's not small amounts.
It's not small amount. And the addicts in this country probably about 180,000 plus, but there are frequent users, not addicts. One wonders actually when you're looking at these volumes, where it goes, because the Navy and the other agencies is not 100% successful in stopping this. It's practically impossible. When you study about this, even world over, say the South American trafficking to North America, what has been arrested with all the assets deployed, maybe about 20%, 25%. So I would say, what we are stopping at sea is also around that. So others somehow probably get in. And so a question of where all these drugs are ending up is
actually
a problem,
yes.
right? Whether these have been rechanneled as well. And apart from this, there is the cannabis that comes from our, the coastal areas of our northerly neighbors. The South Indian part. Quite a large volume that comes every year. The Navy, Coast Guard together. I'm referring to what we see is at sea, all on the coastline. Over 4,500 to 5,000. There were years that it had reached 6,000 to 7,000. This is 1,000 kilos, or the 4.55 tons of cannabis. So the problem is, the damage that it causes. This all goes to younger generation, the future generation of this country. And if we do not put the pressure and deter this network, I just can't imagine, how the younger generation of this country will, where that they will be heading to. Yeah. Because the destructive level of drugs, I don't need to emphasize, highlights here, it's known to everybody. So we engage in lot many ways. We go after on ground, seeking information. Our intelligence elements are continuously engaging in this, trying to get some clue about some information of some origination of these deliveries, trafficking, and then we go after, analyze these things, and when we realize that some transactions going to take place in high seas, we deploy for that. Now these are not only happening, the organized from our shores. Yeah. It's all starts from elsewhere. The narcotic, the deals that comes is through a large network. There are the overseas handling. So all these initiates from there. Some of the network top level people who somehow escaped out of here and well established, they're the people who organize, and they know it's controlled from there, and the consignments are then organized and arranged to deliver to some fishing vessels. When I mentioned about Iranian vessels, I never meant that as a group, but few. Similarly, our high seas fishing vessels, there are few that is engaging in this. Now we are also after these, and some of these elements and the people engaging are well known. So we are very much caution when these vessels are going out to sea, and we have our controlling levels at fisheries harbors. The vessels that go out to sea and they return back, they are all the Coast Guard engage in that within the regulatory framework. When they departure, it's all been checked, and who the people who are going, and when they are returning, you see that the same people come. So you don't see the drugs coming into fishery harbors. So if they're successful in the transaction, they will come somewhere close and then transfer that to another vessel, and from that to another vessel, up until it comes to the shore. So we have to lay our network, not only at sea. It's very good that, if we can see seas at far away, like, I mentioned, at such distances like, 1,500 nautical miles, because it is easy to pick a vessel. If you know some information, then, still, you get some information. It's a huge area that we have to. But with the tactics that we are using, we've been successful. But then when it comes closer and closer, the numbers, the fishing vessels, even the overnight fishing boats that go out to sea is so many, and huge area that we have to concentrate on. So we concentrate on offshore to such distances at the regional level, Indian Ocean deployment, high seas deployment, EZ deployment, and then the littoral, this territorial sea deployment. That alone is not enough. We have to be very effectively surveil the coastline. So the Navy, the Coast Guard, we have a certain deployment right along the Coast Guard, and the radars, other systems that we have. We monitor what comes in and what goes out. You know, very much a technical level when it comes to.
Yes.
But you know, we are doing good, but you know, not enough. You know, we'll have to do more to you know, totally, as you said, you know, if you have to eradicate, the eradication alone is very difficult, and the Navy alone cannot play in this. But the other stakeholders in the police narcotic bureau, the special task force, the military intelligence, all are actively engaging. And you know, when I was mentioning about intelligence and information earlier, you know, what they generate is also of support to us. You know, if they were able to get some information, yes, then you know, we can go after them. Now that's about a broad view of, you know, how this drug, the narcotic trafficking is taking.
Sir, because it's actually taking headlines almost every day. So, Commander, it is time we take in a first break for the interview. So remain with us, and we will be back. Welcome back to the Spotlight this Monday evening. We are in conversation with Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera. Commander, my next question for you, it's a bit of a follow-up question from my before the break. Two officers recently from the Sri Lanka Navy were arrested over the possession of drugs, also known as ice. This incident brought a few questions to the minds of people. What are your thoughts on this, Commander?
Yeah, let me be very much straightforward and candid on this. No, we discussed earlier how committed that we are in curtailing, addressing, and you know, fighting the drug menace to this country. When we enlist officers, recruit our sailors, you know, a huge process of, you know, training them into, you know, we instill discipline, we make them professionals, we build their character. But I cannot deny the fact, you know, there'll be always few spoiled eggs, right? And these unfortunate two souls probably because of the environment, the associates may have got into this. Unfortunately, doesn't mean to say at all that the citizenry here look at the Navy in a way that, you know, a generalized picture against the Navy. Unfortunately, when these two arrests came, it is portrayed in such a way, you know, sometimes, you know, in media, you know, how appeasing the certain news are. So I believe that's what happened. But that may have even raised a question or two among, you know, within the public, why Navy? But as I said, like, you know, we cannot help, you know, few of, you know, this kind of people. I mean, this is not the only case. Even before, there was a case about 3 of naval personnel involved in. But in our minds, in the Minister of Defense minds and the Command-in-Chief's minds, it is very clear how we deal with them. The discipline in forces is 100%. And the previous case that I mentioned, through a very transparent actions, we immediately took action, the disciplinary action. Those people were dishonorably discharged out of the Navy. Right. You know, they're not entitled for pension, even when such a measure taken. So that's the way that we deals with. So the case is an open case now. Police has considerable credible evidence against these.
But the Sri Lanka Navy has sort of taken action.
We will, and right now these officers are temporary place suspended, I would say. But we will also observe the progress, the legal progress. But what I assure is that there'll be stern action against them. There'll be the legal action in courts, but also the disciplinary action in the Navy as it was displayed earlier. But this, few cases like this should not have any doubts in public mind what the Navy is all. We build in our officers. The character building is one primary requirement, a concern in the Navy. So we as much as possible try to make good characters, whether it's officers or the ratings. So that's our effort. But unfortunately, this is a case or two like this. So one's credibility and then the loyalty sometimes open to I would say if one goes on the nefarious lines, that efforts that we have taken to build the character it's undermined, and can't help going notorious. So I assure the Navy 100% on to job, and this is not a general allegation that should be pointed towards the Navy.
Because the work that the Navy does, you cannot measure it, Commander. So a few incidents like this shouldn't be the general conception or idea of the Sri Lanka Navy.
We shouldn't be judged
Definitely.
by such occasional act.
Yeah, Commander, how prepared is the Sri Lanka Navy to counter the acts of illegal fishery?
Fishery, the illegal fisheries are, the foreign fishery, the IUU, the poaching that takes place, and we have a large exclusive economic zone where the living resources, which the fish in that case, that we need to survey, carry out surveillance to see that in the other areas also this is happening. But it is very much less. There are other international fishing vessels that are operating in high seas, but not so much in our EEZ. So that is to a greater effect. To greater extent, we are effective in our surveillance and the marine domain awareness monitoring. But in the northern waters, this is a different case, because this is an age-old question, a situation where we have been facing the Indian poaching in our waters. Goes back years, the history. When you talk about the delimitation of the international maritime border, the 1974-1976 agreement, subsequent acts. But it's very clear in these that the once it is divided, the Sri Lankan waters are for Sri Lankan fishermen. But I believe one of the serious issue is on the other side, the Indian side, the supersaturation in the industry, because then their resources are not so much, they penetrate into our waters. And to this we deals with, we arrest frequently these vessels that comes into our waters in poaching, This year alone, first 3 months, I think some 23, 24 vessels that we have arrested with crew, and they've been prosecuted. And then we chase away because practically the numbers that comes, it is not possible to arrest them all, and that is also bilateral issues that are involving it. But as much as possible that we put pressure, we deter. But it continues to happen. But this, I think, at fishery management level, at the fisheries ministry, fisheries department, and then the Indian side, they need to look at more robust ways of managing. One proposal suggestion that I can make is that we, the Sri Lankans, were also at sometimes, I'm talking about some 20, 30 years back, we were traditional fishers.
Yeah.
But we have 5,000 plus strong high seas fishery fishing fleet in this country now, right? And out of that, about 4,000, 400, 500 boats maybe are with the vessel monitoring system. So we see actually where these vessels are. So this is also something that the Indian fishery management need to look at. Instead of engaging in this coastal water fishery, they need to look at high seas fishery options and converting these vessels capable of doing high seas, because the entire Pork Bay is available as high seas for one to go and harvest much profitable fishery. So this is just a suggestion.
Yeah.
So everybody concerned. But we, the Navy and the Coast Guard, is dealing with at our best to keep it at bay.
Commander, my next question for you, so many questions to ask, but time is ticking. If you could briefly talk to us, Commander, on the technologies that the Sri Lanka Navy is going to use and is using in the foreseeable future, because we also know that the Sri Lanka Navy is constantly on the move, keeping up with bilateral relationships internationally. What is a plan like?
Yeah, no, this is the very comprehensive research study that we did recently.
Right.
Making the proposal to the government, I handed over this volume very recently to His Excellency the President. Now this proposed what should be the naval strategy. When I say naval, that is both Coast Guard and the Navy, naval strategy 2030 and beyond.
Right.
So you hear a lot about this 2030 defense review, right sizing. So addressing into that, we looked into this, and it's a very comprehensive study, what our strength should be, what our technology enhancement, what should be the force structure, the manpower, all that we have in detail looked in this.
Yeah.
And one of the key issue, as I mentioned earlier, is the marine domain awareness. We need to understand. We have a reasonable sea surveillance system, marine domain awareness system. We get a very good picture of all the vessels that are plying by our waters. And as I said, the entire high seas fishery, most of which carries the vessel monitoring system, is in the picture. Even one of our fishing vessels go into the Indian Ocean and the African coast, right? Even in the case that our fishery vessels are engaging in IUU, in anyone else's, in some other countries' exclusive economic zone, we can monitor that. So this is a huge picture. But there are very sophisticated systems that are there. We need to improve more to see that, beyond the white ships, which are, white ships are, which is indicating itself, the automatic indicative system, a system that vessels of a size more than 500 GT need to carry. So that picture we get. But then these are white ships. There are dark ships. which are not emitting. And these are the vessels that are problem because you don't get to see. So we need to improve our this more technology coming in, like satellite pictures, in engaging with the other countries in this, so that we build up a very good marine domain awareness system. Our radar system, the capacity to find vessels beyond or up to at least 200 nautical miles, and supported by these elements. So once we have that, we will have a very good picture. And so that, we can execute our deployment plan to address those issues that, if we find, if anything suspicious going on. But as I mentioned, then alone the coastline, because the manpower alone is not sufficient. So the technological enhancement in this that we have looked into. So the mechanization and then the automation is something that we need to look at in the beach patrols, engaging the mechanized means, and also the engaging the drones and similar arrangements. But that not alone is sufficient. The Air Force has a key role to play. They are the long-range maritime patrol, which the Air Force is now deploying. They will have to build up more capacity in that, so that they can go more than 200 nautical miles off our coast and keep this. This is the level of the enhancement, technological enhancement in our marine domain awareness. And of course that, we have projected how our fleet should be up to 2040. So the making our fleet capable of engaging at high seas deployment, and proposing more vessels. And we also need to have the underwater picture. See, submarines are a deterrent that a country has to put against someone else. So when submarines are around, the nations are little concern, has little concern. So without the underwater picture, you don't get to see this. So the anti-submarine warfare that we need to get, and I was mentioning earlier about this hydrography. So we have to have more hydrography, at least one for the moment, a hydrography survey vessel, so that we'll be able to meet these tasks of charting. This is simply a little the technical upgrading in the Navy that we are looking right now, and so it's all balanced at the end. Your budget, so the capital and then the recurrent budget, how to acquire these things. So we have done a nice proposal there. Definitely. So I hope that we will be able to put that into action and make our naval forces more capable and more effective in the future.
Commander, my final question for you is, the Sri Lanka Navy joined the Combined Maritime Forces initiative based out of Bahrain. This cooperation, what does it look like for Sri Lanka, if you could briefly talk to us about it?
Yes, the Combined Maritime Force is not a strategic organization, It is, initiated by United States of America. There are 41 other maritime nations, navies are involved in either members or as a partner. Sri Lanka too was invited at one time to become a partner. Right. So, for us, there'll be considerable benefits coming out of that. One is now the CMF has 6 task forces, Task Force 150 to 156. So that includes one task force engaging in training, 150, 151 about maritime security and the narcotic. So our interest in internationally addressing narcotic trafficking rhyme well with the Combined Maritime Forces, its interest. The reason why that at one point, you heard the news that, about 1.5 months ago, we deployed a vessel in the Arabian Sea in support of 150. in protecting the freedom of navigation and the security, maritime security at sea. So this allowed us to establish ourselves, and the connectivity. You remember, a month or so back, the hijacking of one of the Sri Lankan fishing vessels.
Yes.
So advantage for us is this connectivity. Being that maritime diplomacy, I was able to reach the Indian CNS, the Indian Navy commander, and the combined maritime force, and put everybody into alert. And we had our system of monitoring that. And when we see that it was heading towards Seychelles, it was only a matter of making a call to the Chief of Defence Staff of Seychelles, the Commander Michel. So he immediately deployed. There was a vessel that already out at sea to intercept this. Now, those are the benefits that we'll be able to get by engaging with them. And of course, because of our activities, our actions on this anti-narcotic, counter-narcotic operations, we are much recognized. That is why that a lot of assistance are coming towards this country to enhance the Navy's capacity and capability building. And the invitation to join the CMF also came because of the recognition to what we are doing. So that's basically, in nutshell, again, as I mentioned, about our involvement with CMF. And we will be able to place one national liaison officer there.
Right.
We'll be able to work with them, and quickly, even some, if something necessary about counter-narcotics operations, giving information, that is possible because they have more high-tech capability.
Definitely.
In going after information.
All right, Commander, time has caught up, and to be honest, I also learned in-depth things about the Sri Lanka Navy, because as a media organization, we do disseminate information, but sometimes we don't really see the intricacies and the depth into which and to the extent you are going into protecting us. Not only, as you mentioned, not only protecting our borders, but also enabling a smooth flow of running systems in the country for the people, and also being supportive towards our nation. So on behalf of ITN, thank you for having this very exclusive discussion with us, and wishing you and the Sri Lanka Navy nothing but the very best.
Thank you, Mariela. Of course, as you said, time is not enough.
Definitely
sufficient to, dwell into this vast subject.
Yes.
But I think, we discussed a lot, making
yes.
many things clear to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commander. So we were in conversation with Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, for an exclusive discussion on the happenings of the Sri Lanka Navy and the service that they provide to us and to our motherland. And that brings us to the end of yet another edition of The Spotlight. Join us again next Monday, same time, same place. Until then, have a pleasant night and be safe.